I'd like to introduce Ferdinand Wafula and his team. There's a team of farmers that they work with. Very briefly, I was just trying to think back, but I think I met Ferdinand in 2001, if my memory's right. And he was working for another organization at that stage. But I remember thinking, yeah, no, this guy is a mover and shaker. He does stuff. And then we've seen each other off and on since then. And he set up, I can't remember the date when BIOGI was set up, but I would guess it was about 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, perhaps earlier. And I visited quite a few times, and I've always really enjoyed visiting. BIOGI is an organization that is very closely knit with farmers, works very closely with farmers, and always doing interesting work. The farmers themselves pushing boundaries, trying to find ways to manage more successfully. So I'm really pleased to introduce Ferdinand and welcome Ferdinand, and he'll introduce those he's with, and say thank you very much for giving up time to prepare your presentation. These things take time, you have to, and for doing the presentation and for inviting others. We really appreciate that. I think you want to say something, Minnie.
Just a bit of housekeeping. First of all, welcome, Ferdinand. We are delighted to have you here. And just a bit of housekeeping. May I request everybody keeps their microphone on mute, because then background noise can ruin the recording as well. So we will allow, we will have a space for question and answers and discussion after Ferdinand's presentation, when it'll be you'll be able to speak. So please keep your microphones on mute to limit background noise. That's all I wanted to say. Meanwhile, Ferdinand, take it away.
Okay, thank you, John and Minnie and the organizers of Water School Africa, and everybody who's tuned in to this Zoom meeting. I'm grateful to be presenting and at the same time sharing the work that we're doing here at Biogardening Innovations. And before I continue, you may be getting some background noise. It's just some chicken around the office area, because we are doing this presentation in our demonstration gardens, and we are in the hut. So we have some farmers whose work I'm going to share here, but they will introduce themselves, and then one of them will also give just a very short introduction, because part of the work that we are sharing here is out of that inspiration, what he's been doing. So I just welcome them, and you may not see all of them on camera just because of the space, but their voices is important for us. Yeah.
Me, I am Simon Amore, nashirikiana na BIOGI kwa upande wa ukulima.
Sasa.
Habari ya mchana. Kwa majina ni Ruthi Ogalo, nikifanya kazi na BIOGI.
Habari ya mchana. Jina ni Esther Digili, BIOGI. Asante kwa mafunzo ya leo.
Good afternoon. I'm Julius Astiva, working with the Gardening Innovation. I first of all thank the organizers and the BIOGI. First of all, thank the organizers and the BIOGI for allowing us to meet, at least talk about the harvesting of water in Africa. This water harvesting in Africa, I think, has pushed us from where we were up to where we are right now. And at least with the other interconnections of other principles that we are using for working here.
Okay. My name's good afternoon. My name's R.I. Bugatti, working with the BIOGI.
Mchamboni nyote, kwa majina Joseph Oyamo, nafanya kazi na BIOGI. Asante.
Thank you. Then we have the staff. They will also just wave their hands so that. Yeah, thank you. So that is some little technology that we're just using here so that we can connect everybody. And I would wish to now share my screen. Just a moment, I open my screen. Coming feature. Okay, is that visible to?
Not yet,
everybody?
Ferdinand. No, not yet.
Okay. Let me just screen sharing. Okay.
We did test it earlier. Yes, it's coming through. Yes, it's come through.
Thank you. So this is our presentation, and Biogardening Innovation is an NGO. We're based in Western Kenya, and we're working specifically in Vihiga and Kakamega, parts of Vihiga and Kakamega. This organization was set in 2009 and became active. I mean, we rolled out our programs in 2010, and as rightly put by John, he visited us when we were just initiating some of our work. And for today, I'm just going to concentrate on our whole farm approach, whole system approach in terms of food, water, and conservation of the environment. And Vihiga receives some good rainfall, around 1,900 millimeters between March and April. And it has a bimodal type of rainfall. This is usually the long rains in March and April up to May. And then we have short rains between September and November. The altitude is around 1,300 meters to 1,800 meters above sea level. And then Kakamega, again, receives quite a huge amount of rainfall, up to 2,000 millimeters. And just to have a feel of where we are, these are the areas that we are working within Vihiga. This is Vihiga County. And Kakamega actually hosts a natural reserve of the remaining tropical rainforests in Kenya. And there's quite a lot of diversity in this area and receives a lot of rainfall. So we are working in this sub-county here, Huisero, and Emuhaya, within the Emuhaya and Luanda areas. So our work on watershed management is has an introductory context on the land use management and land use systems in these areas that we're working with. There is high population, and this high population, about 1,000 persons per square kilometer. And Vihiga, for example, has 530 square kilometers. So there's a lot of pressure on land. And the traditional system here is that there is land is given to the sands. So there's a lot of fragmentation. And this has been happening alongside bush clearance, even in areas that were considered riparian. And part of the landscape is very slopey, and clearing these bushes and the natural vegetation exposes the soil to a lot of erosion. And water is good, but at the same time, it can cause this challenge. And these are some of the livelihood challenges that we are addressing. But life does not stop there. People still have to have food, and they still have to harvest water, even in these very small pieces of land. So our intervention is to walk the journey with the landowners and the beneficiaries, so that they can provide learning and what kind of solutions can we think about. So we have two major strategies on how we work with farmers around issues around water, developing eco-sites. And these are areas we work with the landowners, especially those who are close to those catchment areas or watershed areas. And then we form partnerships with those farmers. Some of them are the ones here now, in designing ecological landscapes, so that there is a whole design, a whole land use design. And we are using those ecological principles and permaculture methods. And then we also have what we call farmer to farmer, or horizontal knowledge transfer. And that is how we interact with the farmers like Julius, and all the farmers here have interacted with the Julius, and learned from his example on a whole farm design, and how we can be able to not only cultivate food in the different layers, but also be able to harvest water, and also use that water, recycle that water, and take it back to the landscape. So part of this presentation is actually, most of this presentation, I should say, is as a result of the work that Julius has been doing, that we've been able to transfer this knowledge to other farmers and set demonstrations and set working examples. And it is still spreading, and the farmers are still learning, and others are still learning from the work that is happening. So our first intervention on the whole land design is actually earthworks, where we do construction of swales. We've chosen swales here because considering the slope and the labor and the equipment and the vegetative cover regenerates very fast here. So we use 3 principles here, that once we are constructing these swales, we aim at slowing down water so that it doesn't hit this bare ground, and then spreading it along the landscape, and then eventually it sinks. And the soils here are quite good. We have oxy soils, and these are rich in iron. But our observation is that there are some areas where we have clay soils, and therefore you may have to dig maybe deeper swales. But the swales that we are constructing here are about 2 feet, maximum around 2 feet. And so when we are talking about the landscape change, this is actually the long-term vision when we are training farmers and when we are working on establishment of the swales. That along the landscape, the establishment of swales start from the very top, and we are using the A-frame. This equipment here is the A-frame, and we have modified the use of the A-frame so that instead of using a string tied here, we've used a spirit level. For us, this works very easy and fast, and farmers are able to get the contour line much easier and faster across the slope. So this is something that we just tested, and out of our own creativity, it's working very well for us. And looking at the whole landscape and starting from the very top, when we are training farmers and working on the increasing vegetative cover, the choice of trees that the farmer will be able to plant along this landscape will depend on their needs. And we for example, choice of avocados as because they are fruits, and also other timber trees that are local, indigenous. We have a lot of mahamia tree because it's deep-rooted and doesn't affect growth of other crops around here. So this space between one swell and another, we keep it around 8 meters. That depends again with the slope. For the farms that are gentle sloping, that can extend, and for those that are very steep, then that has to be very close. But this is the place where crops are planted, and this is the point where actually the water is actually stopped and spread along the landscape. And just looking at some of the examples of the swells that we have constructed, we are using the Vihiga system as a starter, because along this swell here, you'd find that sometimes there's a lot of water because of with the 2000 millimeter, and sometimes we have heavy downpour. This can destroy your BAM. But the Vihiga system is working quite well because within a very short time, then you will have this embankment here strengthened, and therefore the water, even if it's on a heavy storm, would not be able to destroy it. And then farmers are using planting of the different varieties, including climbers and even the timber trees. And just to take you back here, arrowroots are among those plants that are utilizing water very well and quite efficient compared to the grains that farmers are using. So when we're doing the harvesting of water and stopping this water and spreading it, we're not just looking at water alone, but how this water is used along the landscape, right from the top up to the bottom. And so this is just part of one of the farms that we have right from the top, where we have the Vihiga system, and we have the food crops here. And just looking from the top, this is about 1 acre. This area here, I think John has visited here, but that was quite some time back. It's sloping towards the east. But some time back, there was just open grassland here, and you could see the other end. But right now, the tree canopy has covered the place, and you cannot see it. But what is important is that within this diverse vegetative cover, then that forms the catchment for rainwater. And inside this vegetative cover, you now have the swells again, so that the tree canopy forms the first layer or the first level of stopping the water, stopping the raindrops slowing them down. And as the water gets into the ground, we already have the soils here, which now become the second level of spreading that water. And at the very end of this landscape, we usually have a stream or a river. And this example here, we have, in this case, bamboo. The farmers are also growing bamboo, so that it's harvesting this water and also spreading the use of this water to support livelihoods. Because the challenges that we are addressing is about fragmentation, and people have appetite for land and they are encroaching. So we have to think about alternatives. It's about land use, it's about water, and it's about livelihoods. So a combination of these diverse systems is important when we are thinking about this water harvesting. So this crop integration is working very well. And at the end of this farm here, and this is one of the farmers, you have a stream and the water becomes very clear. It's not destroying the embankment here. And in case this, because here we have the bamboo system. In the absence of this, the farmer used to experience a problem where this water, instead of becoming a solution, was a problem. But now it's inverted. Instead of the water becoming a problem, it's a solution because it's helped the farmer be able to have a diverse cropping system. And also the water here is clean, so that the people downstream are able to also access this water, because these farmers that we are working are actually living on the upper side, or on the hillside. And any activity that is destructive will affect everybody who's living downstream. And the people down are as important as the people upstream. I hope I'm not too fast, and I think you can stop me if at any point you think maybe I'm very fast. But I'm sure there'll be a session, then we'll be able to share. So
you're doing fine, Ferdinand.
Okay, thank you. So the work of Julius is that he had this instinct just to learn from nature and to establish a food forest. But then it's like you have this, humans, we have this instinct whenever we relate with nature, that they are all these elements like water and the soil, and we have to keep on thinking what to do and how to live sustainably. So for Julius, and the example that he has on his farm is that rainwater has got to be harvested through diverse means, and has got to be harvested through the vegetative cover. And the layers of food forest are such that we have that diverse cover, right from the ground cover and herb layer, shrub layer, and climbers, and up to the landscape that Julius has, that has inspired us to take on food forest farming and a whole landscape design for water harvesting. So that in here, he also has a lot of channels that also keep on slowing and spreading that water. And the diverse of crops have, I mean, we've never been able to count everything here, because the moment we visit one corner, then birds are also helping in the dispersal of the crops and the seeds in here. And then this is at the very end of that lush food forest, where the water is coming out as a spring. And Julius has established 3 ponds This is, and he has fish. So that this water, when it is slowed down, it gets into the underground water table, and it comes out through this spring here. And this is within 1.5, 2 acres of his land. That the whole landscape is dotted with vegetation, and the water here is never dries. The neighbors farms may have some, during the droughts, may not have some water, but this water never dries. So this is very important for us because it helps to sustain people who are living downstream with water. And therefore, having this kind of example spreading is very important for us in order to have more water harvested on land. So taking on the Julius example, this is at our demonstration center where we collect the brown water, and sometimes we have very heavy storms, and we have 6 layers or 6 levels of these swells. It's 3/4 of an acre, and we've replicated this kind of landscape system, and having swells at intervals of about 8 to 10 meters. But in between, we also have buildings. So these buildings are also sources of water harvesting. We cannot harvest all of it in the tanks, so that we have established some pipes under the swells. At one corner of the swell, about 1 foot, we have established pipes that can connect one swell to another swell. And in between, I mean, at the end of that swell, now, instead of having the water spring, we have a pond, and that collects that brown water. And we have some fish in that brown water, and then we have established a system that recycles, an aquaponic that recycles. So we have 2 ponds here, and we pump this water from using just solar and gravity, so that so this pond is at a lower level, and this pond here is at a higher level. So we pump this water into this pond, and here we have ducks, as you can see. And then here we have vegetables, so that this water gets into these stones are growing in the vegetables, so that it's purified. The ammonia and the other compounds that from the fish can be able to be cleansed, so that that again can get back here, and that is recycled, so that that green water turns the garden into a green system for food. And that is how we are demonstrating how small pieces of land, people can stop cutting of trees and destroying the natural vegetation, but instead have more vegetative cover and recycle that water and still make a livelihood out of that. So some of the lessons that we have drawn from this are at 2 levels. At one level, in blue here, is that when we are working as an organization, it's important to develop long-term visioning with the communities, and make it more holistic in terms of water, food, fuel, and just community interactions, and how they are going to get, how their economy is going to develop, let's say in 5, 10, even 20 years to come. And water becomes a very important driver in terms of food, in terms of the fuel, because we are still talking about renewable energy, and we are talking about vegetative cover, and we are talking about food. And their economy, when their economy is driven by that water, then you are sure that that is going to sustain them for a long time. And then we talk about putting knowledge into practice. And we always have a saying here that when you give a donkey heavy loads of books, that would be meaningless because the donkey would not know what to do with those books. So we usually say it's good to walk the talk, but start small. Maybe just read a small book and then implement what is contained in that book. And then for the community and working with the community, it's good to establish working examples and then keep on persisting, and nature keeps on rewarding us in abundance. So this is actually our inspiration and our story. And we gather also from the community that among these farmers who are doing this modeling, that there's no end till the last drop is harvested and utilized, and not just for ourselves, the people who are downstream and everybody in the community also shares in our work. So thank you so much for paying your attention, and also for giving us an opportunity to share our inspiration, and we are grateful. Asante sana.
Thanks, Ferdinand. Minnie, I'll let you respond. I've been there. I've seen, not for a while, so really interesting to see. I'll let you respond, having not been there.
So, Ferdinand and team and farmers, I can't really thank you enough. I've been sitting through your whole presentation with my, grinning from ear to ear, seeing how fantastic even a small piece of land, how you can revive and bring the water back and make that land lush, productive, holding water, and also looking after the soil, the trees, the biodiversity, and making it productive for people. So this is really one of the finest examples of holding the water. As one of our colleagues who presented a few months ago, Paul, we started the work saying slow, spread, sink. Slow the water, spread it, allow it to sink in, and you have a really good method of replenishing the planet. So what you've done is true not just on a 2-acre farm, but there is no end, as you said, there is no end to harvesting. Each drop until each drop is harvested in the ground, and that's true for across the planet. So really, thank you very much, Ferdinand. I'm sure I'm going to stop talking here. I'm sure there are lots of questions from the audience. There are already some in the chat. John, would you do you want to look at them?
Yeah, just to add, I think what Ferdinand hasn't shown, he's shown the good examples. He hasn't shown what some of the surrounding farms look like. And it's interesting how we're having these presentations, and the first one was from Tswamba, who's here working in much drier areas, but much less population density. Here, very high rainfall, but very high population density. And I went driving around there, it's very sad to see some of the production systems that have been pushed there, maize twice a year, sort of monocrop maize twice a year, in this incredibly high potential climate. And as I like the way Ferdinand was emphasizing the downstream, because they are higher up, and they're looking after the land for those lower down, because they get all this rain. And I haven't been there that much, but I do remember being in some incredibly heavy storms. We have quite heavy ones here in Zimbabwe for sure, but I don't think I've ever been in as heavy. So that's a lot of rain in a very short space of time. So it's getting that in the ground is critical. And so this is fantastic work.
That's also a really crucial point you make there, John. This was at the very start of the Flow Partnership. We came across this with a landowner in the UK, that upstream farmers looking after the downstream villages. And that's the partnership that we talk about, that if you are upstream, you don't necessarily always need to look out and hold the water, but when you do that, then the whole landscape becomes healthy and the downstream people and villages get taken care of. So that's a really very crucial point in terms of working collaboratively and together looking after the landscape. Thank you for highlighting that, John.
Great. So I think maybe if you stop sharing, Ferdinand, but we could go back if people want to refer to particular slides. Then, yeah, so let's have a look in chat. But if anyone in the meanwhile wants to say anything, comment or raise their hands. I mean, I've got a question for Julius at some stage, but it doesn't have to have it now. So we've got here, have you ever done the economic benefit analysis from the systems, incomes and potential incomes thereof, and thus far compared inputs and costs to its establishment? Yeah, I don't know if you've got any comment on that one, Ferdinand. Any water quality measurement? I mean, that's an interesting one we can discuss. Are there, and Julius may come in there, how water quality, and because you're growing fish, you need good water quality, and that kind of balance between having too much nutrients and not enough nutrients. So that's another one. And then if you had a lined pond under shade, could it retain water year round or for a 6-month? So I don't know if you do any lining of ponds. Maybe it's not necessary. Maybe you could say something about the ponds and how they're made to hold water. So back to you, Ferdinand. I don't know if you've got any of those. I mean, we can also ask others to jump in. It doesn't have to be you.
Yeah, I got the question. We are using waterproof cement to line the ponds with the bricks. And we just made a trial, and what we have here is around 20,000 liters of water. So, and for the 2 ponds, we have 40,000 liters. And because we having rain most part of the year, it's only for about 2-3 months from November to February that you have very little rain, and then that water can be used now just for the garden, because it's not all the water getting into the ponds, because there's still some water getting into the landscape. And because we've done, there's a lot of vegetative cover, then water actually does not evaporate. The rate of evaporation is slowed. And I think that is very important for the crops, and also very important just for the microclimate. So that is what we have in terms of the lining. But then we have those people who are doing the pond liners with the plastics, and we are yet to try that. And I think, I'll be honest, we've not tried that, but maybe there could be others within the participants maybe who've tried that. We also are yet to learn from others about the pond liners. Then about the economic benefit, I would say there are 2 things that we have observed, and I will also invite Julius to talk about the water quality. That during the dry season, and that is the most interesting part, that the work of a farmer who has swells and stops the water and spreads the water actually has more vegetables and more crops throughout that dry season, and especially fruits, that it is during the dry season that people go for fruits. And I think this is just, I think, something natural, even in other drier areas, that during the dry season, when the lush vegetation is over, that is when people start looking for fruits. And interestingly, within this food forest, we find that the farmers who have a more integrated system of harvesting water are actually having more lush vegetation during the dry season, because they've also integrated the climbers, and especially the traditional climbers, and these do not need a lot of space underground. They just creep along the trees, and they can still sustain themselves with vegetables. Then, Julius, you have something about what you observe about the water quality, and also something about the what you observe about the vegetative, the economic benefits.
Okay, thank you. Profit is the difference between input and output. In food forest farming, we minimize the input and maximize the output due to the environment that we are in. Water by itself will make itself.
Can I stop you for a minute, Julius? Would you come and sit in front of the camera, just where Ferdinand was sitting?
Profit is the difference between input and output. In food forest farming, we try our best to minimize the input and maximize the output because of our environment where we grow things. For example, whatever that we bring into the farm is lower compared to what other people are bringing in. So automatically, we harvest in layers. The first layer, or the ground layer, the top layer, and the most top layers, because we have the rhizomes, we have the fruits, and then we have the trees, like avocados and those other things. So automatically, it'll be far much better. I'll harvest more if I harvest in 3 layers than that one who harvested in 1 layer. 2, most of my inputs are natural. So you'll get that what I put in is less than what somebody else bought and placed in. That one answered?
Yes, that's great. And
Yes,
I mean,
thank you.
just to add to that, I visited Julius, and very nice to see you again, Julius. I've had the privilege of visiting Julius's farm. And I think and the first time, I mean, I was just walking around listening, but what struck me visiting his farm was that he was talking biodiversity, he was talking water, but he was also talking economics all the time. He was talking how he plans the short-term income, longer-term income. So I saw someone who really takes into account, I mean, often this question is asked, how does it work on the economics? But I saw in Julius someone who's thinking the income all the time, and he has many, many, many diverse forms of income as well. I mean, for example, he grows certain trees which he will then convert into charcoal, and he had a whole charcoal. So he got all these different diverse little enterprises going there as well. So it really struck me that he was, and he had kids, he had to put them through college and schools and so on, so he had to get income. But just to add that, the water quality. Sorry,
John,
go ahead.
before we get to water quality, that's an interesting point which often comes up. What are those different diverse streams of income? I mean, charcoal, as you said, is one, but Julius, you might want to say a few, add to that list, to the kind of different income streams that you can develop on your little farm.
What is that?
Income, your income stream.
Oh. In food forest farming, you expect to get much. And with the farm, we have fish, we have avocados, we have beekeeping, we have fruits, we have rhizomes. All those we can get them from the same small plot. Arrowroots are there. We have climbers, air potatoes. So in agroecology, we don't expect to have monocroppings at any given time. And when you harvest from a number of crops from the same plot, you are far much better than who is harvesting from one crop from the same plot. Definitely, that's what it is.
So, Julius, stay there, Julius, please, because while you're there, I want to ask you, because I'm really interested. So you started 25 years ago, I think, because I remember when I visited you, it was about 20 years. So maybe it's even more than 25 years ago. So you did something completely different from what everybody was doing around you. I mean, even when I was there, I looked at some of the farms, so it was sort of monocrop maize. What was it that fired you up or stimulated you or got you going to do what you've done? I think it would be really interesting for people to hear that, because yeah, I mean, you're a pioneer. And a lot of people are now recognizing, many more than then, but you were going against the trend then. What got you going? Why did you do what you did on that farm?
When you think of the right thing to do, don't care about what other people are talking about. Look for the best friends to work with. That's Ferdinand. I thought of the right thing to do, and I've got a best friends to work with, because they became very simple.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've heard about this story that just think it was about instinct. That for him, this was the right thing to do. That's how we started, just to have a multiple cropping system and diverse income streams. And then we met, and I just confirmed to him that this is actually what we call agroecology. There's a science in this, a lot of science. This is what food forest is all about, and it has not changed. In fact, it's even become better day by day, because when we introducing other like use of biofertilizers, we see now that because of the water holding capacity of the soil, then it even becomes much healthier, and that the crops that are growing here are much healthier. So I think I buy what he says, that you see the right thing to do because we've been given knowledge, and just go for it.
That's the truth.
Right.
In fact,
okay, so the water quality, just to get to that one, we don't want to forget about that one. Do you check your water quality in any way in your fish ponds? Do you add nutrients to your fish ponds?
what type of nutrients do I have to add if the best thing to be done is to put the growing crops for the crops, for the water crops? If water crops can grow there, phytoplasm, phytoplanktons. If you can make the phytoplanktons grow there, then automatically the quality is not bad. If phytoplankton can grow, the quality is not bad. Two, the water has come from where the farm it has come from. There are no chemicals there, so you don't expect any poison right in the water. In case we had people doing a lot of chemical use at the upper part, or I'm using the chemical on my land, definitely my water might have a problem. But now I don't use it. And when it comes down by sieving itself to the place. I don't pour it direct. It sieves itself through the ground and comes to the other end, minus the chemicals from up there. How do you get the chemicals? The only thing to be done down there is only to add their crops, fertilize the water, and then those crops grow there for feeding the fish.
Right. Okay. So you've obviously got a system that really works. I don't know if David Marioni asked the question about water quality. I don't know if perhaps you have a system. I mean, I know that one that I've heard is that you put your hand into the water up to your elbow, and if you can just see your fingers, then that's about the right balance between nutrients and not enough oxygen. That's so, I mean, because I think sometimes some people add a little bit of manure now and again to stimulate the phytoplankton. But if you do too much and you can't see your fingers, then there'll be a shortage of oxygen. I don't know if anyone else has anything on the water quality while we're on that.
And on the other hand, that's the best thing to know how much of the plants that are in the soil you use your hand. That's quite correct. But now these are springs. These are springs that's coming in to add new water, clean water from the ground to the soil, to your pond. So you only check to see if you have more of the planktons or less of the planktons.
Great. Okay. Anyone else? We've had quite a few comments in the chat. I think people feeling quite inspired by it. Any more questions? Anyone like to say anything else? Anything particularly caught your attention from the presentation?
There was something about, Ferdinand said something about lining the ponds with plastic. And there's often a big debate around that. Should you line the pond with plastic, and how much infiltration in the ground will happen if you line the pond with plastic? Are there not more natural ways of doing it? I kind of remember a session that we'd had previously where this discussion happened. Maybe it could be, if anybody has experience of lining the ponds or water bodies with plastic and yet also managing infiltration. Would anybody like to comment on that? Or has experience of doing that?
I guess it also depends a lot on the soil. So some soils naturally hold it better, or you can pack the soil down. I know some people pack clay, or even put a layer of green organic matter, and then that forms its own layer that holds the water. But it does depend on the soil, of course.
And you want a bit of infiltration. You don't want it totally, how do you achieve that optimum balance of natural barrier and yet a little bit of permeability for the water to go down?
I think some I've seen is where people are lining and catching the water, and then they've got a spillway, because often in heavy storms or when there's a lot of rain, there'll be extra water. And then your spillway, you've got to really design your spillway well. So into a swale or into a contour, dead level contour or something, depending on the climate, so that you then get that infiltration. But the lining means that you can carry the water through the dry season and so grow the fish. So I think that's how you'd have to do your permeability is via the spillway.
Swamba, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to tell that to say that we saw at some places people putting stones at the back of the basin, and they put small cement to stabilize the soil in such a way that it can slow down the infiltration, but still allow it. So they will have a certain quantity of water for their crop growing, but still allow water seeping. So this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Interesting. Monde, go ahead. If you unmute.
Yeah, I'm happy with the presentation.
Abraham.
It looks, it's Daniel.
Oh, it's Daniel.
Like father, like son.
Yeah, it looks excellent. They are doing good work, those guys. But I just want to give a comment on their frame modification. where they are using a spirit level. In most rural communities, it is known that 3/4 of the population are poor. So on that one, I urge them to go back to the use of strings so as to accommodate everybody, because those things, they are expensive, you know. So we want a situation where farmers use locally available resources, at the same time transforming their lives.
Great. It'd be interesting to know, Ferdinand, how much does that, because it looked quite a small spirit level, how much does it cost?
Yeah, I would say necessity is the mother of invention. It's about 100 shillings. It's less than $1. The smallest one, you could still get it at about 70 shillings, Kenya shillings. So, and it's just once, and it can be shared. You can have one frame shared within a group of about 20 farmers, because once they do, and they do it together, and they can raise. That is something that it's affordable. But for us, we thought that was kind of easier for us to work with than the stream. We've had the stream, and I've used that and trained farmers, but when using the spirit level, it became quite easy for them. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I think it sort of emphasizes the point that I think everyone finds their little system that works for them. Zachary, go ahead, and then Tom. And it was someone else had their hand up, but they took it down. But anyway, Zachary, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. One thing, I'm very encouraged by the farmer who is sitting beside Ferdinand.
Julius.
From the way he's talking, I think he's very confident, and he knows what he's doing. He's not an illiterate farmer. I'm happy because farmers now, even people with a lot of knowledge, they are becoming farmers, and this is going to encourage those who think that farming can only be done by some illiterate farmers. So keep up, because many people who probably they have a degree, they have done a lot of things, they can also be attracted to farming. So congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, what Julius is doing is 21st century farming, as far as I'm concerned. The other farmers are still, those who haven't changed, who are not shifting, are 20th century farmers. So yeah, he's led the way and pioneering. Tom, go ahead.
Just before Tom, sorry, Tom, there was a question somewhat related to this, to the last comment, John, is about the farmer to farmer learning. And how does that farmer to farmer learning happen? And is it chargeable, or is it, how do you guys do it, Ferdinand and Julius? And then Tom, sorry, Tom, I interrupted, stopped you.
Okay. Farmer to farmer learning. Mostly, you will learn faster if you see than if you write. So we to get farmers to visit those farmers who have done something. For example, we want to talk about a given topic, soils. The best thing to be done, if a farmer who has not done it can see what another farmer has done, it becomes very simple for that one to learn. And if there's maybe seed, we want to get new seed or new crops, it's easier to teach that farmer by seeing from the other farmer than just writing things on the board. So it becomes very easy to teach other farmers using the other farmers. Those ones who have done something can easily teach those ones who have not done, or those ones who are intending to do it.
So how do you organize that?
Organizing, we have groups. For example, where we are right now is a station. We have other stations outside in the fields. So farmers around me will learn from me. Farmers around the other farmer name, champion farmer, will learn from that farmer. At the end of everything, we shall come to the station and see what you have been teaching, where we went right, and how far we can go.
Fantastic.
So just in addition, these farmers who are here, have some models, some demonstration spaces, and the organization organizes or moderates so that at the villages, farmers have been learning from each other, so that we just make that process more formal, so that when they are getting into the field, they can have some sitting space, and then the farmer can be able to interact in a kind of a presentation and the practical mode, so that the capacity that we support farmers is how do you talk to your fellow farmers so that you can share technical knowledge. For example, how do you measure this soil? How do you start, and how do you maintain it? And then we do it practically with them. And once the system is established, then they are able to carry on to do it, to teach others who do not know. And that is working very well. And there's got to be some motivation for the farmer. For example, when we have some new packages, then we actually make that introduction to these farmers, so that it is these farmers, the models, are motivated to continue doing that work. And when they see that things are working and working well, then that is actually an advantage to everybody. The farmer who's come there to learn, and the farmer who's championing this work also feels appreciated in different ways, because they also sell seeds, they'll sell other materials to the community, so that it's a win-win situation. And above all, they make friendship. And just the way we've made friendship with many people from across the country. And I think sometimes you cannot even quantify the value of friendship. And I think when people live in harmony and peace, because there's a lot of things to share, I think you cannot even quantify that. Thank you.
I think thank you, Ferdinand. That's the most crucial ingredient of all. And this sounds like water hubs right there. Wonderful. Thank you.
Tom.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ferdinand and colleagues, for your presentation. I really enjoyed it very much, especially because I had the chance to visit Western Kenya last year doing a household survey. And we also did a lot of soil analysis related to sustainable land management. And I can only encourage you to keep records of your income, because everyone discussing about the benefits of sustainable land management is asking for what's the benefit, what's the economic benefit about it, because many times these sustainable land managements are related to investments, sometimes maybe even only investment in training and other things, and sometimes even technology. Even if it's small technology, you mentioned building a pond, etc. And just for your information, the differences of, in my case, farmers which practice conservation agriculture, which is, I would say, very similar to what you're doing, combining with agroforestry, fruit production, and also other wide diversification of the production, have a much higher income per acre than the control group of farmers in the very neighborhood with the very similar soil conditions, weather conditions, etc. That's
great.
It.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for that emphasis in terms of selling the practice. That's great. Let's go. I think Hosea, you had your.
No, Dr. Robson had his hand up. Yes.
Okay. All right. He had it earlier and then dropped.
And then Eustace and then CPA.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good day.
Yeah, Hosea, if we wait for you, there's a line up here. Robson, go ahead.
Good day, colleagues. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. And I appreciate much of the the experiences that we are learning, and the honesty in the practices. So I want to take you a little bit back to Minnie's question about the when do farmers are they supposed to get a charge for sharing knowledge sharing?
Hello, can you mute everybody else? Can you mute your?
That's probably Robson.
No, it's not me, it's Philip.
Okay, right. Thought you maybe were being arrested or something.
Nah.
I hope not.
So the issue.
Go ahead, Robson.
Yeah, the issue now that I wanted to bring, I saw a comment and I also read that comment, and I think it's the issue of knowledge economy. So you find you get very enthusiastic and knowledgeable farmers like Julius, and what normally happens is kind of like doing his own sustainable farming, which could be backtracked to indigenous knowledge. And as organizations that maybe are working around in the within the context, there's this kind of tendency of tapping that kind of knowledge, commercialize it. And what happens now is Julius is taken across the region for knowledge sharing. And at the same time, he is not financially benefiting from the all. But the organizations that are running those programs now, they tend to benefit from his knowledge, and also is in the name of farmer knowledge sharing and creating all these kind of knowledges. So how do we best deal with those kind of situations? I've seen it happening in some contexts.
It's a very good point. I mean, one of the primary drivers of the Water Schools initiative is that this is community wisdom and community knowledge, and it should always be freely available since they share it freely with us, and with anybody else. And the other point is that if you want to regenerate the planet and get the planet back into being healthy, you cannot charge for this wisdom. You have to make it freely available for everybody, and everybody then uses it to do the right thing, as Julius said earlier. So those are two really crucial points in terms of community wisdom, and it being freely available. And yes, you cannot police everyone. It's more about how do communities benefit if that knowledge is being sold. It shouldn't be sold, but if it is, how do communities benefit? It's a really important question. I think Julius and Ferdinand might have something more to say on that. Their hand is up. Go ahead, please. You're on mute.
Yeah, I think it's important. I've heard about this, and I think the commercialization of knowledge has landed us into some of the problems and challenges that we are currently facing with the intellectual property rights and that. But that does not mean that farmers and the development workers who are at the front line of doing innovations don't have to get a living. What we have learned is that, in fact, when you share knowledge, you gain more. The farmers here, not that they know everything, but the more they share, the more inspiration they get. And what more reward do you have than inspiration? Because that is what is lacking for those who are not doing anything or those who are not changing. They just do not have the inspiration, they do not have the drive. But having said that, we still support these farmers in different ways. The little that we fundraise from our supporters helps us to facilitate these processes. For example, when we want to set up some meeting space, we've set up meeting spaces in the community, and that becomes a motivation. That is not owned by the organization, is managed by the community. And when we talk about partnership, it's genuine partnership, that the community gives us a space as an organization. But that space is not for us. It's actually in the community. It's controlled and managed by that farmer himself. So the income we get, the grants that we get, go towards supporting the processes. But the danger and the challenge of commercializing everything, then even that very poor will not have access to that knowledge and that information. And I think that is what we're fighting against, and thinking about what is in the common, for the commons, so that there's a lot of internet information that I can access about water management. But if all that is commercialized, then I will not have time to even share with the farmers. So I think we have to strike a balance when we're thinking about the farmer sharing knowledge, and even development workers, and among development workers sharing knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, well said, Ferdinand. I mean, I'm always reminded of this quote that you get more flies with honey than you get with vinegar. And, friendship and inspiration is what you've been talking about. So it is through friendship and through this generous sharing of how, of farmers sharing with each other, that this work will increase. There will be those who will commercialize it, but, those are few and far between. Our focus and attempt should be in spreading it as far and wide as possible, and be, open, friendly, generous, spread it with that feeling. And we're likely to do far more good. And then those who want to sell it eventually will, of course, which doesn't mean we give them total freedom to do so. But in general, the energy should be towards that friendship, love, motivation, inspiration of spreading these methods. Thank you very much. John.
Yeah, Eustace, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. Yeah, thank you very much, Ferdinand and Julius. Yeah, I've known Ferdinand for some good years. I visited the BIOGI and has come over to AFAD and also helped us to learn about his wisdom on making trails. So Ferdinand, thank you very much. Yeah, we have progressed, and now we are able to reach out to so many communities. Yeah, I'm always happy to learn from Ferdinand. And today I was happy when he talks about food forests. Yeah, when you do all this, you could see the results of food forest. When he talks about harvesting, nature giving you in abundance, this could be seen vividly. But I still remember when I came over, I think it could be about 5-6 years ago to BIOGI. The strains were vivid, the vetiver was there. So I think Ferdinand is a living example and a good ambassador for East Africa. For me, I don't have any question, but just a word of appreciation to my brother Ferdinand, that you are the best that we can deliver as East Africans. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Eustace. Hosea, I think you've had your hand up and down.
Okay. Thank you, John, and everyone. Thank you very much, Ferdinand and the team at BIOGI. It's a very, very inspiring presentation. I'm really learning a lot. I've met Ferdinand in the past events, and I'm really excited to see what he has done back home. My question was still on economics, and I'm coming from a background of finance. I've just seen a CPA, and I've been baptized to agroecology, permaculture. I'm practicing it also myself. My biggest question has always been incomes, and how do we convince more people to come on board? I really like what Tom said, record keeping is a bit low on our side as permaculture or agroecology persons. And if we do this, it can really be good. Like for an example, in this farm, one of the biggest costs when you're setting up your farm is water. If we can quantify the cost we are cutting in terms of harvesting this water through wells and such, and then also look at the output out of that, it can really be powerful. I'm doing a master's on finance, and I'm really lacking literature when it comes to financing agroecology. There's no much academic literature. So this is an area we can build on going forward. Thank you everyone for this, and let's do more, and let's learn more.
Great, thanks, Hosea. Yeah, and I think we're very keen within the Water School to quantify as much as is possible, because I think that can help convince to illustrate how many thousands of liters have been caught within a given area. Is not too difficult because we know how much rain there was. And if there was no runoff, then we quickly know how much water's gone into the ground or been used.
Yeah.
So
that's the biggest number.
Yeah.
How much water do we filter into the ground?
Yeah. And so I think that's good points from those who are saying we do need to document and capture this information. So thanks a lot. Zachary, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a hue and cry all over Africa that agriculture does not pay. I wanted to hear from the farmer perspective whether this is true. Is it paying for him? How, I mean, like he has talked about recording is also very important, but is it paying for him? Because you see, one of the things that people in Africa think is that agriculture is for people who have maybe have not gone to the university, they have not gone to college, but is it paying for you? And what are the secrets? How can you inspire us who are working with the farmers so that we tell them that we need to do ABCD? Thank you. That is from Julius.
So Julius, you gave up, I think you were working in an agricultural college, if I remember rightly, and you gave that up to come and farm on your family farm. Has it paid for you to farm?
Definitely. If it doesn't pay, to start with, I'd not be there. Disappear. So records of writing in agroecology is not there. There are very few who are doing that. But with payments, how it pays, it pays faster, higher than any other. Why am I saying that? Simply, the difference between input and output is your profit. So if you minimize the input by getting most of your inputs through the environment, then automatically the profit will be high. Two, you are harvesting from the same plot. Where somebody is harvesting one crop, you are harvesting there more than 5 crops. Automatically, you have paid yourself. It has paid you, definitely. The only thing that we don't have right now in a food forest farming and or agroecology are those records, recording that how much water have I got, how much water have I harvested. That one we don't. How much of the compost, how much leaves have I collected to make compost? Those are the things that we don't record, but automatically it pays. Because the input has been minimized, automatically the output will be maximized.
So maybe in addition, and these are emerging areas for learning, as much as we have agroecology, because we've not had it mainstreamed. Now this is emerging, that this is getting into the mainstream economy through the policies in our counties and in our countries. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Michel Altieri, a pioneer of agroecology, has done some work around tools, developing tools to measure. And I think these are areas that we want to get into. How do we, the economics of doing agroecology, because nobody has been there. We've been doing the traditional farming, the mixed farming systems, but I think now, even as the Food and Agriculture Organization embraces this and mainstreams this, I think this is getting into our learning as practitioners. And I think in another forum, I think where we share with John, we also planning about that. How do we get some of those pioneers sharing with us the science and the economics? How do we measure this? And I think that is an area that we still going to learn, and we are ready and we're open, because it's not the end. We're still open to a lot of learning. And in fact, as we share this, now we find that these are the areas that need to focus on. And just thank you for that also, for that point.
Great, thanks for
Just
getting near the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
go
before
ahead,
we
Minnie.
end, John, may I remind anybody who is new and would like to be part of this group, please put your email in the chat, and we'll keep you informed of future events and the Water School online sessions.
Great. So with that, I'd like to say Asante Sana to.
There was a wish in the chat.
Marie, go ahead.
There was a wish in chat. One of the participants wished to hear from one of the lady from BIOGI. I don't know if you got the message. Yeah.
No, I missed that. So yeah, all right, let's hear from the lady farmer. We've had a lot of men talking. Let's hear one or two experiences from her. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Naitwa
Esther Digidi.
She's called Esther Digidi.
Mimi naona tu hii ukulima tu ni mzuri.
So she just appreciates and sees this type of farming is good.
Sasa hii mambo ya maji hii hii maji hii tuna harvest, hiyo inatusaidia, tunapanda miti zetu, tunafanya swell. Sasa hii hata shamba yetu haiwezi enda na mchanga haiwezi enda, kwa hivyo hii inatusaidia.
So she sees a lot of benefits out of this because even the water harvesting knowledge where they're doing swells and having diverse systems, she sees that her soil doesn't go. I mean, she no longer has erosion, and that is just good.
Ni vizuri sana kujifunza, tunakuja tunajifunza hapa BIOGI. Tena hata sisi tunaenda tunafunza wakulima wetu nyumbani, wanazingatia kwa mambo ya swelling, harvesting water.
So she appreciates because they visit here at the center and they get a lot of inspiration and a lot of learning, and they also go back and also share with other farmers as they keep on doing on their farms. And she just finds that this water harvesting thing and related activities are all good.
Asante sana.
She's grateful.
Okay, Asante Sana, thank you very much for that. So yes, next first Tuesday of August, which I think is the 1st of August, we'll have our next session. So we'll be hearing from another similar sized organization to BIOGI, working in a community in Zimbabwe, Chikuka communal land. And they've been working on various forms of water harvesting for about 30 years now. They started when they noticed a lot of erosion. It's quite a steep, hilly area near the Chimanimani Mountains. And so they started putting in various water harvesting systems. They're right in the line of cyclones. So during that time, they've had 2 very big cyclones that they've had to handle. So they're learning a lot. And things have gone up and down. They've had successes. They've had things that haven't gone so well, but it's a very real experience from Chikuka communal land in Zimbabwe. Next time on the 1st of August, Tuesday, the 1st of August. So please join us then. and let anyone else know who you think might like to learn from that experience. So thank you very much to BIOGI, Ferdinand, all the staff, all the farmers. Thank you very much for attending this session. And even more than that, thank you very much for the work that you're doing. And we hope that in Water School Africa, we can, one of our aims, we know there's a lot of good work going on. And one of our big aims is to try and link this up more, magnify it, profile it more, and just get everybody recognizing the importance of getting the water in the ground and the importance of, with that as the basis, the water as the basis, being able to have the kind of whole farm approach where you have biodiversity, you have production, you have good income that they've been describing in Vihiga and Kakamega. So thank you very much. See you next time, and stay well and keep harvesting water if you've got the rains at the moment.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Go well.
Bye.
Thank you very much for good hosting, and the coordination is excellent.